Good Thursday morning. Thank you for joining us here on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get right to your headlines. Check this out. You're looking at the deal to save HCMC, the signed agreement released late last night by the governor with just 4 days left in the session. The fight to save the cash-strapped hospital is one of the biggest topics at the legislature. And just within the past 14 hours, word that a historic deal, according to the governor, was reached. Megan McPherson's at HCMC. And Megan, this involves hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, it does. It's all broken down in this supplemental budget agreement. Just one page, but there is a lot in here. It was signed yesterday by Governor Walz and other legislative leaders. The key piece of this, $205 million for HCMC. That's a one-time payment that will get them through this year, saving the hospital, something that we know that they have been fighting for at the Capitol. And then it also includes another sum of money. So let's break this down for you. Here's the full budget breakdown. Hennepin Healthcare will receive an additional $500 million through 2031, bringing total funding for Hennepin Healthcare to $705 million over the next 5 years. The agreement also includes Republican-backed reductions to auto tab fees, $125 million in property tax relief for counties, and a $1.2 billion bonding bill to fund infrastructure projects across the state. DFO Representative Esther Agbaje, one of the lead authors of the HCMC funding bill, shared this message on Facebook late last night.
But we know that there's still work to do. But for now, I think we can all breathe easy that HCMC will receive up to $700 million over the next 5 years to ensure that they are around for us.
Governor Walz, House Speaker Lisa Damith, Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy, and House DFL Leader Zach Stevenson all signed on to this agreement. After it was released, Stevenson acknowledged the compromise, saying that while the deal doesn't include everything House Democrats wanted, it still moves key priorities forward in divided government. Damith did not specifically mention HCMC, but said that this agreement delivers affordability relief for communities across Minnesota and will help families manage costs in the year ahead. And also, one key question here, really the big piece that I know a lot of people will probably be asking this morning, is where exactly is this $700 million coming from? We've been telling you over the last several months about the various proposals that lawmakers put on the table to try to get that funding for HCMC. It's something that we will certainly be asking lawmakers about today as they are expected to release more information about this agreement. Back to you.
New this morning, former state senator Justin Eichhorn pleading guilty to attempted possession of child pornography. That could land him in prison for 15 to 21 months, but it's not guaranteed, as he had a solicitation charge dropped as part of a plea deal. Eichhorn was arrested by Bloomington police during a prostitution sting last year. His defense team argued the case should be dropped, saying he was singled out because he was a state senator, a role he resigned from shortly after his arrest. Well, diplomatic discussions began in earnest in Beijing overnight between President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The White House saying deepening economic ties and the war with Iran were key topics in the 2-hour talks, while President Xi said missteps over Taiwan could spark conflict with the U.S. Democrats, meanwhile, are pressing President Trump to affirm U.S. support for the island democracy that China claims as its own. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Hi there. President Trump getting the red carpet treatment in China and meeting behind closed doors with the Chinese leader on issues from trade to Taiwan and the war with Iran, as the two sides stress stability and a critical and complicated relationship. President Trump treated to a lavish state dinner in China.
Extremely positive and productive conversations and meetings today.
Capping a day of fanfare, including a military honor guard, visiting cultural sites, and calling President Xi Jinping a friend.
You're a great leader. Sometimes people don't like me saying it, but I say it anyway because it's true.
An acknowledgement there of the challenges under the surface, including China's restrictions on freedom and U.S. accusations they're trying to steal American AI tech. Trade tensions are top of mind, with leading CEOs along for the trip.
I look forward to trade and doing business.
The White House saying the two sides discussed enhanced economic cooperation, as well as the war with Iran and Strait of Hormuz. China is Tehran's most powerful ally and biggest buyer of Iranian oil.
It's in their interest to resolve this. We hope to convince them to play a more active role in getting Iran to walk away from what they're doing now and trying to do now in the Persian Gulf.
China's top priority is Taiwan, a government spokesperson saying President Xi told President Trump that mishandling the issue could lead to conflict between the U.S. and China. The U.S. is the self-governing democracy's biggest supplier of defensive arms.
U.S. policy on the issue of Taiwan is unchanged as of today and as of the meeting that we had here today. It was raised. They always raise it on their side. We always make clear our position and we move on to the other topics.
China's leader pushing the two superpowers to be partners, not rivals, as President Trump navigates a complex relationship. Despite the Chinese leader's words, rivalry is inevitable as the U.S. and China battle for dominance in the future of technology and in global influence. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying China's rise cannot come at America's expense. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
This morning, the White House Anti-Fraud Task Force cracking down on fraud with a moratorium on new hospice and home health agencies now in effect. Vice President J.D. Vance is also issuing an ultimatum demanding every state detail how they're rooting out fraud or risk losing federal funding. All this after the task force says it discovered an enormous amount of Medicaid fraud in California. Here in Minnesota, we're getting a look at the final report from the Republican-led House Fraud Prevention Committee. That 84-page report recaps the committee's work over the last two sessions and lays out recommendations for lawmakers. Some of the recommendations have bipartisan support, like adopting the Office of Inspector General and investing in IT upgrades. Republicans also accused Democrats of creating a culture of fraud, while the committee's 3 DFL members said the report was drafted without their input and contained partisan speculation.
We have helped illuminate the vast fraud that is criminally stealing money from taxpayers and is hurting our vulnerable citizens.
What we saw with this Fraud Prevention and Government Oversight Committee, it was a lot of politics and not any policy.
The Fraud Committee is the only one in the tied House that Republicans control. It's not clear if the committee will continue after the 2026 elections. This morning, 4 men are facing charges in an international burglary ring linked to several burglaries across Minnesota and Wisconsin. Federal prosecutors say 3 men from Chile and a man from Venezuela stole about $1 million in jewelry and other high-end items from homes. Court documents say the men traveled from Florida to Wisconsin and Minnesota several times, breaking into homes in Mendota Heights, Orono, Edina, and Lake Elmo. The men are facing up to 35 years in prison. Well, this morning, the Wild's best season in years is over. They were eliminated last night in overtime by the Colorado Avalanche, the Avs scoring just 4 minutes into overtime. The Wild came out strong, establishing a 3-goal lead here in the first period, but the Avalanche clapped back hard. Final score here, 4-3. Now as the team makes their way back to Minnesota, we're hearing from head coach John Hines about what this historic season has meant to him.
Our guys, competed hard, and this group is a pleasure to coach. They you go 9 months together basically, right? And great competitors, great character, gave everything they had, and that's all you can ask as a coach.
Now with the frost out of championship play as well, the last hope for Minnesota sports fans shifts to the hardwood. The Timberwolves will take on the San Antonio Spurs at 8:30 tomorrow night. That's happening right here at home. Hopefully they can keep hope alive for us. Well, this morning we're learning about a proposed pilot program in Minneapolis allowing police to use drones as first responders. The city says the drones would get a first look at the scene within minutes of a 911 call. Advocates of the program say many calls can get closed without ever sending an officer. And in crimes like car theft, the drone can get a look at the suspects faster. The full city council will have to call for a public hearing before they can approve the 75-day pilot program. Now, this morning, Sun Country is no longer a hometown airline. Allegiant Air says its $1.5 billion deal to buy Sun Country has closed. The two airlines say they will operate independently for now, selling their own tickets and flying their routes. The new combined company will operate under Allegiant's name, but MSP will still be an important hub. Sun Country's outgoing CEO says he expects most of the airline's jobs will move to Allegiant's headquarters in Las Vegas. Stick with us. More news and weather right after the break.